Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Callie, University of Louisville. Also, yes, is it being recorded? Okay, fantastic. All right, and I'm also founder and chief education officer for ScholarRx, which is a learning company. So really delighted to be here to talk to you folks. So a little bit about who we are. So part of my day job is I'm an allergist immunologist at University of Louisville. I run their adult allergy section, also advise on the pediatric section, and also work with some of the innovation education groups at the University of Louisville. But what I've been mostly focusing on for the last 13 years is what I call a 13-year-old social startup. We started very slowly, but we've been accelerating over the last several years. Some of the folks in this room probably know me a little bit better for a little textbook called First Aid for the Youthling Step 1. Our friend here knows about this book. She apparently is using it. Oh, there you go. There you go. Is the board's coming up for you? Or okay, second year. So I know all those second years in the room. We are a student-driven organization, as you can see, and student-funded. And we involve actually the work of hundreds of student authors and faculty every single year. Actually, a raise of hands. Who are the medical students in the room? Okay, who are teaching faculty or faculty of any sort? Okay, who are patient advocates? Because I want to talk to patient advocates later. And who are like design people or technology, okay, great, fantastic. So we have the mix of everyone here. And if you don't mind, I'm going to wander around. I tend to be one of those restless souls, so I wander a little bit. So in our learning ecosystem, we have about 150,000 learners. Our publishers, prints about 200,000 copies of our books every year. With 150 million printed pages being read every year. 26 million board questions, 15 million flashcards, 28 years worth of videos being watched. So it's a very active and collaborative learning ecosystem out there already. But it's all for the purposes of preparing for your boards. Okay, which is really a one-time thing, which will have absolutely no significance to you. Sorry, is anybody from the NBME here? Sorry. In about 3 months, for the M2s in this room, right? So, what can we do to address broader situations and issues? So there's a couple things that, I've been concerned about just as a parent, as an educator, about the sustainability of our education system, higher ed, also in healthcare as well, too. So I have a question, I'll just add that we also have a social mission. So we provide education resources to students who are in financial or academic needs. So we collaborate with about 50 medical schools to do that. So I have a question for you. What is the median graduation tuition debt in the United States? Hint, hint, hint. Very close. Yes, about 190,000. And for that, you get the Batman Lego Series 20 limited edition collector item. I don't know anybody who likes Legos. Minifigures. So find out what you get. Anybody here likes Legos? Or yeah, I've got 2 teenagers, or now they're growing up, and I have to walk through a minefield of Legos to get to my home office every day. Yes. So virtually the majority of medical students graduate with buying essentially a Lamborghini that they have to pay back, right? All right. So now the other thing is, I started First Aid when I was a medical student, but I'm also a faculty now. I'm on the other side. I have to wear lots of different hats now, right? And unfortunately, academic medicine is taking a little bit of fire these days, right? Healthcare reform, curriculum reform, being told to do more with less. Any faculty is familiar with that from the dean or the administrators or department chairs? It's a challenging situation, right? How can we sustain it for our faculty who otherwise could be either in private practice, maybe earning more, but instead they've given their lives and their careers for the betterment of society to train the next generation of medical student leaders who hopefully will continue to transform, healthcare in our country. So, with that comes real issues in curriculum that we see at a lot of medical schools. Issues with curriculum gap, pedagogy issues, lack of quality assessments, issues of faculty mismatch with teaching, with value creation. With the value creation, the anecdote that I give is my brother was the founding chair of the Division of Facial Plastic Surgery at the University of Maryland. Dean asked him to give a talk on head and neck anatomy, didn't have any ready materials, took him a week to put it together. He lost $35,000 in clinical revenue that week. And he's a founding, they didn't have much money, so was that 1 hour talk to the medical students, who obviously needed it, was that worth $35,000? Could there have been a better way to get him the resources that he could have used, right? And not have to start from scratch. I've also mentioned issues like curricular reform fatigue with LCME. And then a personal issue for me is education inequality. Why do only some institutions have high quality education and others, cannot because of lack of resources, lack of personnel, and lack of wherewithal? So, and we all know that, there are major changes in education technology that are impacting major areas, especially in K through 12. But why hasn't some of this stuff, really hit the mainstream in medical education, right? All right, so even though people know me through board prep, our vision is really about the 40-year medical school. We really want to engage with the learner from the time they actually made a decision that healthcare is going to be a big part of the rest of their life to the time they actually retire and are no longer interacting with patients. So we call it the 40-year medical school, if you will, for the lifelong learners. And so we're really excited to announced our ScholarRx curriculum initiative, and I'll tell you a little bit about what's going on here and why it actually includes everybody in this room, so keeping the theme of everyone included. So what ScholarRx will be is a low-cost, comprehensive UME, so to explain the jargon, undergraduate medical education, right? The 4-year medical students or the 3-year medical students, separate from GME and CME, so graduate medical education and continuing medical education for some of the folks who are back there who are referring to those areas. A repository of curriculum materials, pre-built curriculum materials, learning frameworks that can be rapidly deployed and customized to unique curriculum goals and so forth. Every medical school is unique. Stanford is unique. University of Louisville, where I'm at, is unique. That means we have unique needs. We have unique visions. We need a unique curriculum, but we don't need to start from scratch, all right? So what will this repository eventually have? It'll have narrative text modules, image repository, video repository, virtual labs, slide decks if people still give lectures, which is still, case-based repositories for PBLs, TBLs. So that's problem-based learning, team-based learning. So just again, bump me if I over-jargonize. Different new learning frameworks that are based on patient scenarios, and also assessment as well too, assessment items, banks. And built around that will be a framework, a digital platform framework that allows faculty and course directors to easily implement new evidence-based learning frameworks like flipped classroom, problem-based learning. There will be course builder tools for sequencing activities, editing tools. So if you don't like my jokes, you can edit them out. If you don't like my EM of that sickle cell, you can switch it out with your own. And then there will be assessment tools, social learning tools, not for just liking and poking, but for real learner interactions, and lots of dashboards that actually help with guiding goals, individualized goals of the students, of the faculty and the administrators, and all the stakeholders in the ecosystem. All right, so to recapitulate, there's a couple of things I want to pull out. One is it's supposed to be modular, flexible, customizable. And and we're going to really start at the preclinical, because it has broad applicability not just here but internationally as well too. As talking to some colleagues from Australia, so aspirin is aspirin, right? There's really wherever you are, it's aspirin, and it cuts across all fields too. So to get to this, we are trying to get the learning experiences down to what we call the smallest viable contained units, or bricks. So what we really want to do at the end of the day, we want to brickify medical education, all right? How are we going to do that? And why, right? So we all know bricks, right? We've all seen the Lego bricks. We all see either we did it, or we still do, we're not admitting it, play with Legos, right? Or things like Legos, right? You've seen these toys, right? But one of the things that have you thought about what goes into these toys? These toys, for example, the Legos have been around since 1953. Turns out that the Legos that you get today still fit the Legos that were manufactured in 1953, right? Because guess what? They standardized the knobs, they standardized the dimensions, they standardized the ratios of the knobs and how they interconnect together, right? So, what if then? And it seems like it's really simple and like it's really kind of boring, but with these bricks, you can then build elaborate and unique structures that are unique to your mission, your vision, whether it's a personal medical student vision or the vision of the school itself, right? Because it's only now limited to your own imagination. So, so like with Lego toys, you notice that they have different bricks. We can have different bricks as well too. So there could be different competency bricks, disease bricks, histology bricks. It could be ethics bricks. It could be health system science bricks. It could be communications bricks, humanism bricks, case bricks, and so forth. But each of them but once you get to the brick, you have to have standardized specifications. So then you can actually get the interoperability, the scalability, and the extensibility in the system. All right. How am I doing on time? Okay, great. And so initially how we're going to do is we're going to organize the brick collections by systems. But as you can see, in each discipline, you see a vertical integration, almost like, not to riff from Hopkins, but from genes to society, from bench to bedside, with regards to, all the things that we all know, like anatomy and physiology, but all the way to professionalism and health system science. So what's relevant in all these systems, but then allow you to rip them apart and reassemble the bricks any which way you want. So how did we validate this? So we started off with a curriculum pilot, and I am missing this must be an older version, but it did include curriculum designers, subject matter experts, medical students who drove the engine of developing all this, and actually a patient advocate, so I apologize for leaving her out. She's lovely. And we developed a collection of bricks, image banks, and assessment items that are currently being piloted at several schools. And this is just the prototype feedback, just qualitative feedback with what what students and faculty are saying with regards to the ease of use, the readability, how it really helps them connect with the content. And I just won't read through, but you can kind of see that it really resonated with our learners. So what in fact I'm going to do, time check, okay, is get out of this and actually just show a brick. All right. So this is a sickle cell brick, and I'm going to mag it up here. Not a Mac person, so help me if I. How do I? Not okay. Well, that's fine. All right. So so you can see it looks like at first glance like an ebook type thing, right? You got text, right? You got learning objectives, Bloom's 1 through 3. Learning objectives with regards to taxonomy. But what you'll start noticing a couple things. You notice that we ask a lot of questions. We're not just here trying to just give you some sort of expository, dump a bunch of expository information on you. We actually ask questions and we use it to build a narrative. So it's kind of basically like a Socratic inquiry-based narrative methodology that we're using. We get away from jargon. We use everyday language, because guess what? Medical students and other health providers use everyday language. We're not out there using all these 50-cent words all the time, right? And then along the way, we're embedding digital flashcards. So for something called retrieval practice, there's science behind retrieval practice in terms of learning and memory, with both encoding and retrieving and applying concepts. And then at the very end, I'm just going to skip here. We have a learning objective linked based summary, and we try to make it integrative. So with something like sickle cell, we're talking about the genetics, the epidemiology, the context, the populations, and so forth. And then there are self-assessment items at the very end that can be used for form of self-assessment. So that's low stakes testing, right? So it doesn't really matter if they have a little bit of problem with it. And it can also be used for certain types of learning techniques like TBL, right? If you're interested in team-based learning, you can do certain types of assessment before the student actually gets to the classroom and get a sense of what's going on. And then, how do I get out of this? All right, help. How do I get back to the, thank you. All right, the other thing I mentioned is that we're also trying to interleave competencies, right? We all think about education is just about knowledge, right? But you can also interleave the patient experience as well too, and that's where I want to get help from the patient advocates. So, for example, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, preferentially, unfortunately, afflicts children. But then we can ask, how does that really make you feel? How do you give bad news to students to patients who have it? And so you can then, link that to humanism bricks that take them through first-person experiences with patients who have the discussion, that have this issue, and then have open thought questions that can be either self-directed or faculty-guided. All right, now I'm going to get back. How do I get back? Okay, and then how do I find my slides again? All right, so just to wrap up a couple of things. Right? So how have students received it? Fantastic, actually. So we actually implemented the University of Louisville, and actually in the middle of a course, and without actually any warning. And most of the feedback's been very positive. Very few people negative. The folks who were neutral didn't actually have an opportunity to use it because it wasn't required. It's only supplementary at this point. And we have additional pilots that are going on here, and also hopefully internationally starting in a couple of months, because because for this to truly work, it also has to work internationally as well too. We also have a situation where a school is trying to reinvent education from the ground up in Fort Worth. And they're using a lot of self-directed learning. So that means the students have control of the curriculum, actually. And so we're providing these bricks to them. And the bottom line is that normally for the school to maintain this curriculum, they need 18 faculty. But with the system that we're implementing, they're projecting only 6 faculty they'll need. So the faculty are basically tripling their productivity. So they're basically superpowers. With that, you can actually save money or increase productivity that allows the faculty to engage in other types of teaching like mentoring and coaching. So, yeah, this is the wrong presentation. So there was one other slide, which is the last thing that we want to announce is we think that it's limitless what we can potentially build with these types of systems, brick systems and so forth. So we're really delighted to announce for the first time that we're actually creating something called the Medical Education Research and Innovation Challenge. We're funding with $250,000 of our own funds to consortium schools that are working with us to try to help validate, extend, and innovate with the types of things that we're doing. And as we mentioned, all schools are welcome to pilot. There's absolutely no cost. So we're happy to work with anyone and anywhere. And the people who are eligible to apply for these grants will be students, faculty, and patients. Thank you very much. Yeah, great. So first aid for folks who are not medical students is a textbook that gets them through a very, very difficult exam called the United States Medical License Exam. So just that's the context. And there's real consequences with this exam because if they don't get a certain score, they may be restricted from certain career paths. So it's quite potentially a challenge. And so there's a situation where they spend a significant part of their time preparing for this exam, and it's unfortunately, I think, getting worse. So what has happened, what we've noticed, and I actually had this conversation with a good friend the other day who's a student here, is that a lot of students are essentially using first aid as a de facto curriculum. It was never designed to be that. And I really emphasize that even though the lead editor of this text. We never designed it that way. It was purely created just to help you get through a very stressful exam. But nevertheless, a lot of students have and faculty, by the way, have kind of rallied around this. And we said, well, if you're going to do this, then why not take the next step? Why not explode first aid into a real curricular repository, but then still let faculty in schools at the end of the day decide really what should be in their curriculum, because at the end of the day, that's the purview of each of the schools. But if as more schools get involved in the consortium, then schools will get to see what other schools are potentially using, with regards to the bricks and so forth. And it is our hope that we'll be able to link between first aid and all these other bricks. So when you need to engage with the curriculum, you will through these bricks and other learning resources. But then